intro?
Sure.
I'm here with Jimmy Diresta.
That's me.
And Aaron Mattia.
Yep.
And I'm Jabez Manning, and we're here to talk a little bit about design. And I like to hear about all this stuff that these guys are doing. So anything they want to talk about is fine with me.
Right. Well, what do you make?
Well, I wanted to talk. What I make primarily is like I said, R&D buildings, and I really have refined my design process over time. And it started out completely different than it is now.
So non-traditional building.
Yeah, it's non-traditional building, but the problem with that is what happens is I usually have to start with a limitation list. I have this things that I can't add into a building, whether it's building codes, not possible, or something the customer doesn't physically want, and I have to design around that and solve the problem as creatively as possible.
That's interesting. So you get all the things you can't do.
I start with what I can't do, where you guys start with really unlimited things. And
well, I'm not dealing with. Thankfully, I try my best not to deal with any codes or regulations.
Right. Yeah.
Stay away from that stuff.
And yeah, so it's a little bit of a different design approach, and it always interests and fascinates me how creative people can really come up with what they end up as a finished product.
Well, I'm lucky, and Aaron's lucky that we have the freedom to do whatever we want because we're in this world of just creating content. So I could make brass knuckles and play with weapons and make knives and modify antique guns, and basically the net result is the video. It's not the thing that I'm physically making, so that gives me the sense of freedom. You're making things that people have to live in and be in touch with. Occasionally we make product and we sell it, so we try to make sure that it's the best it could be. But in general, mostly, I'm creating content that just has to really look good on camera.
Yeah, but a lot of people get paralyzed when they have infinite choices. They don't even know which direction to go in.
That's what
that's never seen an issue. It never seemed an issue for you.
Well, that's really funny you bring that up because there's a couple of people. I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not talking about you. I'm not. Okay. No, I just had this conversation with someone the other day, and I don't want you to think I was talking about you because it was somebody else. But the idea is like, where do you begin?
Yeah.
And I think you really just have to pick a direction and just commit and just forget everything else for an hour. That's you really just have to tell yourself, okay, let me see. I have these 3 ideas on my notebook here. I can do. These potential ideas I'm gonna maybe do on Sunday or Saturday. It's a wooden box for my calipers, and this is another modification for the Leatherman that I've done a few times, and then this is my 80% brass knuckle CNC. So any one of these could be a video, but I'm not going to be working on this wondering why am I not working on these. I could literally just create a timeline in my head and say, I'm going to give this 2 days, and then when that's done, I'll give this a day, 2 days, I'll give this a day, 2 days, and you really, it is a skill to develop to literally block everything out and just highlight that. Illustrator has a if you use Illustrator from Adobe, there's a part of the program where
like focus mode.
If you double click on something, it just basically turns everything else gray, and the thing you double clicked on is now the only thing you're working on.
Oh, right.
And that's really whatever that mode is. I don't even know, but you really have to begin to do that when you open up your notebook.
Yeah.
I would say today I'm going to just focus on this, and you might focus on it for 2 hours and say this sucks, I don't like it, and then now that's off the list. At least you know what you don't have to work on.
And for me, a lot of my drawings used to be highly computer generated, but then I'm actually, I'm more adept in the field now where I do a lot of it into my mind, and then I draw out like rough, loose guidelines because sometimes I get to dictate the product. But what's your creative flow when it comes to really like you draw everything by hand? You think about it for a long time beforehand. How do you really?
Well, I had some really good mentors growing up, coming up in School of Visual Arts. My buddy Bob, I met at school. He's older than me. He's passed away now, but Bob was probably 25 years older than me when I met him. He was a designer and inventor for many years, Bob Carrigan. And Bob basically inspired me. He said, if you have an idea, don't run and immediately write it down. He said, let it marinate. He said, kind of when you start to draw it is when you start to cement it. He said, so don't draw it too soon. So think about it for a few days. He goes, just write words down. Don't write drawings of images. And, that's a lot of times if you look through my notebook, it just says words of things because it also reminds me to think about it.
Yeah.
So I'll say, like 80% brass knuckles, I'll write that down.
Right.
And then I try and think about like what exactly would that look like if I was going to sell 80% or 80% is like a thing where you can buy like a gun that's 80% gun.
Right.
So I've been having this, it's kind of a joke, but it's also like an art statement, but it's also a real thing. It has all those things that are kind of my brand. You got to think about it. And, also, of course, keep notebooks. Now you can talk right into your recorder, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I go back and listen to me talking while I'm on a walk and I'm saying weird things to myself alone in the dark. It's fun. Because then you listen to it later and you get a different perspective than you had at the moment you were listening to it.
True.
But I think it's important to absolutely sketch, draw pictures, but, you know, again, just like think of words, don't necessarily lock yourself into a design right away. And I notice that with young designers. When I say young, I mean people that are new to design, not necessarily physically young, but fresh designers. When you brainstorm with people, they immediately, oh, what about this? Oh, you know what would be good if you did this? Instead of in your mind, you go, it could possibly be this, or it could possibly be that. Right. But you sit with somebody and they're always like, ooh, this is it, this is the answer, this is the answer. And then when you go, yeah, that could be it, they're like, no, what can we do?
But I think that's really the best way, the real way the best designers do it, because even Tesla, I read like his little bit about his memoirs or his biography, what it was. And Tesla, the reason why he could make so many inventions so quickly, because he kept on reinventing and recycling over in his mind over and over before he made any prototypes or anything.
Absolutely. But then when you do make the prototype, there's a whole new series of iteration that you need to go through.
Yeah.
Because then now you're dealing with materials, real life situations of cutting heads and whatever it is.
And you can't think of everything in your mind. It's not possible.
And it's really important to look for, and you and I were talking about that last night, it's really important to look for those opportunities when you're working on something that's going to present itself, as opposed to just be like, this is what I want. And there are people that do that, but that work lacks a little bit of spirit, a little bit of soul, I believe. You know, you see YouTubers that they make their perfect image and then they make that perfect prototype, and they're so exact, like they can do like a fade through back and forth of real life and a thing. And it lacks a little bit of soul, I believe.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about exactly too.
They fade between the SketchUp drawing and the real life drawing. It's look at how perfect.
Identical measurements and everything, and it's basically it's a perfect replica, but it's not a human thing. It's not a human touch, and not imperfect the way human would make it.
But I mean, I do enjoy seeing people who can do that, because I'm like, I can never do that. So to me, that's entertainment.
I stopped doing perfect things in my business because I was spending 90% of the work to do like 10% of the finished product, finished perfection. I could do the same amount of work at 60%. I could have a finished product that's usable, functional. At 60% of the labor, I could get a nice done. But then the additional 40 to 50% was just to make it perfect,
Yeah,
and it wasn't worth it.
It's a phrase, minimum viable product.
Yeah, that's what I'm a big believer.
Minimum viable product. It's like a software term, but it's like, what are the minimum things we have to hit so this thing is shippable or sellable?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And then anything else after that is gravy.
Right. Minimum viable product. That's cool.
Well, let's transition to the manufacturing side of things. That's your expertise there.
Oh, well, I mean, it's not, well, a lot of my background, like I was telling you guys before, like, my background comes from like flight line troubleshooting and problem solving and that kind of thing. But a lot of my education has been in the machining world and the CNC world, as far as like developing things, learning how to do, my juice tends to be like learning how to operate machinery and how to operate it well, and then to also follow other people's designs. I can come up with my own things, but I haven't really learned how to free my brain up that way.
Yeah.
But as far as like me designing things, all my stuff is based around problem solving. So it's like, I need the way I used to describe it is like, I've got this thing, I want to put it down, but I don't want it to hit the floor. I guess I need to make a table. I need to put a piece of wood between that and the floor so it doesn't hit the floor.
So it's much more logistical and
for me, I tend to be
step-by-step linear progression.
Exactly.
In your design.
It's utilitarian. It's like, I've got a thing that needs to go here. How big is that space? How tall does it need to be? And I start trying to go from there. I am trying to like free up my mind a little bit and get more free flow with it, but I tend to get locked into, as far as design criteria go, like, well, what are the like. One of the buzz phrases is design for manufacturability, right? Yeah. Which is this idea of like basing it around like, what can be done instead of going so far afield that you end up designing something that can't be made, right?
So it's completely useless, like all the work,
right? Exactly. So it's like, instead of, I try not to get too far afield. So I go, what's available? 1.5 inch angle iron is available, so I need to make my legs 1.5 inches. So what does that mean? Well, what's the longest stick you can get? 24 feet, So, okay.
So he's so practical. He's coming at it from a logistics point where you actually have to make the thing at the end.
Exactly.
Not from the art and the creative and the beauty.
Yeah. Well,
that's part of it, though. Yeah. It's absolutely part of it. When you come up with a design, a lot of times, part of the design, and especially if you're going to make multiples of something, or if you're designing and also keeping conscious effort, to pay attention to the budget.
The budget.
You know,
the
you
price
don't-
versus the
you
cost.
don't
Big
wanna-
things, right.
You don't want to stick to your guns and say, okay, I want this to be
Yeah.
exactly 19 feet long, and you realize you can buy material that's 25 feet long, and you say, what if I take it back to 12 feet, and then I get 2 pieces out of it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that that's important too.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
problem.
it is.
Yeah, the problem people often run into is that thing where they haven't thought through the process all the way to know like what are the standard sizes of materials, what they can get that way. Another thing that we would run into when I was working in practical effects in TV is that your lead designer would come up with something and they would use whatever they had around them as a tinkering thing. So like we have this K&S metals rack over here, which is all kinds of different shapes and profiles of brass and whatnot. And they would design a thing, and it would take, so I need this, I need this, I need this. Okay, great. This is the one prototype. Okay, now we need to make 100 of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, let's see what you made. Okay. Oh, well, this pen that you used to make this, you guys had it in the scrap pile. The manufacturer doesn't exist for this anymore, and I can't get them.
Right.
Or, this roll of tape is, oh, wait, the Home Depot only has 3 of these. We need 100 of them.
So it's
You
your
know,
job
so
to
then
tell
I've gotta
Jimmy no all the time.
you
Is
know.
that what you're telling me?
What's that?
You tell Jimmy just no, we can't make
Oh
it.
no, no, I never do
No,
that.
not at
No,
all.
it's not
Oh,
about.
okay.
It's not about.
gearing of
it's
the
about
product.
adjusting
If we're going to, especially like I said,
the
now
reality.
lately, if you look at my YouTube career in the last 9 years, in the last like 3 or 4, we really focus on trying to make multiples of stuff.
Yeah.
We could sell things on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, it's never can't be done. It's how can it be done.
Right.
And then just like you're talking about with my this is my list of no's and can't haves. It goes to okay, so we want to make this. We need to make this number. We want to get it in under this price point. Okay, so how do we need to modify the design? Can we go from there? One thing I was going to say in machining classes, when you learn how to manufacture in school, one of the big things they talk about with like SolidWorks design and machining is that each decimal point of tolerance is like $10,000.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
Exponentially,
right because
for
you need
costs.
to, and
Yep.
meaning that
for large scale runs.
well, it's like a thing of like if a screw doesn't have to have the finest fitting to work, then you don't design it to that.
Right.
Because every decimal point of tolerance increases the level of accuracy. So that means you have to run it on a better machine. You have to have a better operator. You have to do a better process. And so knowing what your tolerances are and all that definitely goes into your design process when you're doing anything that's more than a one-off. Sometimes people will ask me, because they know I like to work fast, and they go, you must do a lot of CNC and you must do a lot of whatever. I said, well, everything's on context, right? So if you're doing a one-off, if it's just a one-off prototype, knowing your hand tools and knowing the best tool for the job will always get it done faster, right? If you're able to think out of your mind. If you're able to like pull it out of your head what you want, or you have something on paper and you can just get that first one done, that's always going to be quicker than sitting down and sketching up and seeing, solid working and doing all that stuff. But if you want to go from 1 to 10,000, then you need to do that computer work to get it done if you're going to use digital manufacturing processes, and so that's where a lot of people get hung up to where they only get stuck in one or the other. They either live in one-off world or they live in computer world. And then you end up in this situation where you're doing a week's worth, you're doing 40 hours worth of work on the computer to do something that you could have done in 2 hours in the shop if you knew your hand tools to make that one thing. I don't know.
But
Sorry
how do you
if that makes
balance
sense.
both the worlds? If we have Jimmy coming from the artistic perspective where he wants to add soul into all his all his creations, everything he puts his hands on, and then we also want to incorporate computers and efficiency and manufacturing into the other one. So how do you still keep and meld the life back to the product where it ends up being something that is special, that it is unique, even if it's been mass produced?
That's the intangible. That's the art.
How does that happen? Because
I have a couple of. I try to do that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I do it with my social media. I'm not super explicit about it, but for instance, every ice pick you've ever gotten that I've ever made, this one does not have a logo on it, but every ice pick that I've ever manufactured with a logo on it has been put on by me.
Yeah.
At least 90.
Okay, so
Probably at least 99.8% of the logos have been applied by me.
so that's just
So out of the 8,000 that have ever been made, I've applied the logo to them.
Okay.
And that kind of became a little bit of a sentimental kind of what do they call that? Like a mojo or
It's labor of
Yeah.
love or
or
something.
like if I don't do it, it's a jinx. Like what?
Right. Yeah. Well, superstition.
Yeah.
It's just a superstition that I put the logo on every one of them now. Like,
Okay.
I mean, Aaron has attempted to do it. Now we have a system where I can let anybody do it. We figured out a system now. Because I just was the best with the hammer when I first started seeing them. I was the one who made sure they always, like I let my buddy try it once and everyone was a little off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that little thing. So I was like, I got to do it. Then when I started doing it on the Tormach, I got to do it because no one knows how to use the Tormach. And this was way before you.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it on the ShopBot again. Again, I had to do it literally like the width of a sliver of tape would make it centered or uncentered in this little bar right here. Then I came up with a hand stamp, and then I would hand stamp it, and nobody in the shop could get it right. They'd hit it, it would be uneven, or it would be misplaced. So now we have a fly press where anybody could do it.
Yeah.
But I still like doing it because I enjoy the process of doing the fly press. And we have a nice tight thing it fits in. So I'm doing now what I should have done, 5,000 ago, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Long story short is that, like, if there's one process that I can do and it's almost in a way meditative, I like doing that. Like we're making these push sticks now, which I always look around. I always think something's wrong.
You can grab one and bring it in a little minute too.
But these push sticks that we've been making, I silk screen every one of them.
All of them.
Yeah, and whether or not that continues to be the first 300 we made, I've silk screened them, and we just ordered some new silk screens because the old one got a little worn out, a little quick. But that's a way to bring soul into it. Like all the books I've been selling my handmade notebooks, and they're such a pain in the ass to make. But I made all of them from the beginning. We made about 20 of them, and I'm selling them for $500 each.
Yeah,
and people are
all
like,
you,
"You're insane." I'm like, "Then don't buy it. I don't care."
Right.
If at the end of this I end up with 19 books that I handmade on my desk, that's great.
That's great.
We make it up other ways, but the point of making this is like if somebody really wants a piece of me that is my soul and heart are really in, buy one of my handmade books. They're the biggest pain in the ass to make.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that people really don't understand when it comes from even me as a builder. Like they don't understand that they're buying a piece of my life and my energy,
Right.
And I don't know how money got so disconnected between that's a thing because it's supposed to be an actual representation of time. Money became some whole new, it's like a whole new evolution of what it actually is. That there's no connection to a person anymore. Right. Nobody cares if someone's getting taken advantage of. No one cares if they're breaking or dying or anything like that.
Well, it's funny because we make various versions of the ice pick, and again, like all my work is like a little bit fun, a little bit kind of tongue in cheek, a little bit of like, oh, that's kind of cool, like a little bit of art. So I make these picks, right? These are the ones we've been making for so long. Then we put a magnet in it, and then we put a level in it. Yeah. So it's got a level and then a magnet, and so the level with the magnet is about $125, I think, on the website. And some guy on Twitter the other day said that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And so I tweeted back, I want to say, hey, fuck you, you motherfucking fuckface. But I don't do that. What I say,
but I don't do that.
That's just my gut reaction. But what I say is, I say, make one yourself, which most people do.
It takes.
Yeah.
Multiply it times whatever your dollar per hour value is. That's your personal thing. And then see what that is and see what that math is. Yeah. And then make 100 of them. Right. And then see what your dollar per hour value is times that. Yeah. And pay for all the materials and the labor and the 5 machines you're going to use to do it
and everything
and the rent and then come back and tell me if you think that that's a fair price. And you'll probably go, you know what, I'll buy 3 of them.
Well, and that's really is the number one thing is like, because that's sort of leaning into another area, which is a problem that I saw a lot in West Oakland in the craft and arts community, which is how to price my work. Yeah. And oftentimes you end up with this, to steal a word from somebody, dichotomy of, you have artists who don't necessarily think in dollars and cents, having to all of a sudden codify what their work is. And a lot of times when you're making things, you're making them, a lot of people that make things are making, especially arts and crafts, are making things for the love of the making. And that's the juice to them, not necessarily the money they're going to get. And so they end up actually diluting their market by undercharging because they just don't know. They themselves don't know. They don't have anybody to tell them.
I worked with a designer in the city. I worked with a couple of interior designers, and this one guy who was a big inspiration on me, he said, I was like dilly-dallying with like how much something should be, and he goes, $500 a day, that's what you're worth, at least. And this was 15 years ago. Yeah, he said, $500 a day, that's it. If they can't afford you, they don't deserve to have you working for them. Yeah. And this was somebody who respected me and was very, and I was like, wow. I mean, I almost didn't have enough self-confidence to like
yeah.
believe that.
Yeah.
And then when I started to believe it because he was pushing me, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm 800. Fuck it. And so when I started to believe that and that
Right.
confidence built into, you know, my ability, then I felt empowered, you know. And now when anybody's like, how much should I charge? I'm like, well, like my brother still hasn't really developed that super confidence where he'll be like, how much should I charge for this table? I go, well, what is your day rate? Have you figured it out yet? He still hasn't. He's like, I don't know.
And
Like, I know the table's only worth like $100. I'm like, that's because that's what you think it's worth, because you know what it takes to make it.
Yeah.
You got to put yourself in a position of someone, you know, and if you undervalue it, people are going to smell the insecurity.
And then they take advantage of you.
And they're like, well, it's I don't know if it's $90. Give you $90. And you're like, okay, I'll take it. You know, you really gotta dig in, and you know, you're gonna lose some followers, but fuck them.
Yeah.
You know,
lose a lot of customers too.
That's what I'm saying. In life, you're gonna lose some followers when you take a position, but it doesn't matter, because the followers that will come from your self-confidence and your, I'm $800 a day. Like when you get hired for a television show, you know, they're basically hiring you and every single thing you've ever done and every single problem you've ever solved and every tool you know how to use, and versus like they go, well, we can get this guy, he's right out of school, he's only 100 a day. You're like, okay, cool, you're gonna need 6 of them. You might as well just give me $600 a day, and I could do everything they're gonna do half the day. I'll be done with everything those 6 could do in a full day. Yep. Well, and more.
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing about it is you're talking about how it's like imbued value, but it's like that is a very hard thing to even quantify or qualify for anyone, really, because if you're an expert in any field and you have a lot of knowledge about it, even taking the time to convey that to somebody, hey, this is what I'm worth because I can do 6 times the amount of work, it takes time and effort. And I would love to figure out a way some point to have.
I really just do the fuck you walk away. That's really it.
Walk away?
Yeah, fuck you walk away. How much is that? That's $4,000.
Yeah.
It's $4,000.
And then
you go like this, you just keep the stare. Let them feel intimidated. Let them do the walk away and go, I can't afford it. And you go, good. You fucking just saved me all this time dealing with you, nitpicking colors, nitpicking textures, sandpaper. Go fuck yourself. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for saving me time.
All right, well, that's simple enough then. And it probably works. And you have to have some way to cut people out. You do, because.
But I've developed confidence. You know, I'm a bit cocky. Yeah. I'm a cocky New Yorker, but the confidence develops, and the more you're a talented guy. That's not confidence. That's knowing what you can do and what. But it's also putting yourself under fire for so long. You know, there's also a certain level of like detachment, like emotional detachment you have to have. Right. You have to, because it's almost like being a soldier. You know, like you gotta.
Well, it's a thing of like
being able to look somebody in the eye and say, that to me is worth $4,000. If you want me to do it, let's do it. Let's shake hands. I'm 100% in if you're in. If you're not in, I don't even want to know you again. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's like you talked about that. People, this is another thing, is that along with pricing your work, talking about developing confidence, is you do have to sometimes look back and understand where you are in your career, to understand where you are like next to your peers and where you are against other people
in the market.
Yeah. And there really is a self-awareness that a lot of people just don't even understand.
Yeah, and it's it's a thing of like one of my favorite stories that I tell people, because like people ask me about, how'd you get that job with Jimmy? How'd you get that job with Jimmy?
Yeah, excellent job with Jimmy.
Yeah, people love that. And then I was talking to somebody one day, and they go, well, what do you do? I said, well, I work for a builder, and we do things, and I make enough money to pay my bills, and we won't work when we don't want to. And they go, oh, well, that's must be a nice job to have. I said, it is. I worked really hard to get here.
Yeah, right.
Because for me, like you talk about what a product costs made by me. Well, me personally, you're talking education from 10 years in the military, 5 years, 4 years of college, another 2 years, 3 years of machining and welding school, 4 or 5 years on a TV set making things, and so when I tell you I can do something, and I know not only do I have the skills, I have the experience to back me up to know, like, yes, I will do that thing and I will get it done. If you want to go with somebody else that doesn't, like Jimmy said, that's your loss. Yeah. You hire me, this is what you're hiring. You don't hire me, then, sorry for your luck.
Mm-hmm. But just, and then like the other thing too is like, I've said this before, when you're interviewing a client, and you guys have to deal with that a lot when you're meeting somebody the first time, it's not just you trying to get the job, it's you trying to decide whether you want to work for this pain in the ass or not.
That's the other thing. It's always an interview. You have to remember
the interview goes 2 ways.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, oh, I want this job, I can't wait to get this job. And then all of a sudden you realize you're in with some crazy person that has literally, not even a joke, has mental illness, can't make decisions, doesn't know what color paint they want to use, and they're wasting your time. They call, it's called the time thief. That's what me and my brother would call him. Like, don't deal with him, he's a time thief. Which means
I don't know if it's wasting time, but if you're intentionally choosing to still work with that person and you're aware and knowing that, your own time. That's your own choice.
Yeah, and, right. No, that's the point.
But I understand what you mean.
The time thief. And, I have a couple of time thieves I'm unfortunately involved with that I can't get rid of because we're too married together. But I will literally start the phone call with, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You have 5 minutes because you got me just before a meeting. Oh, okay, blah, 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 blah. And they get all the points out, and then I go, all right, now it's time for me to go. I got all the information, goodbye. Right. You can't thieve any more of my time, because I'm not going to let you.
That's a strong boundary, and that's a healthy way for you to maintain what you need to.
Yeah, and when people call me, I'm in the middle of nothing, and I can kind of sniff that this might be a time waste.
Yeah.
They go, hey, you got time? I go, I only got about 5 minutes. What do you need? And I got it the whole day, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
Because then they'll get to the point, and there was another funny thing. Oh, so talk about like knowing, being self-aware of your worth. Recently got a message from a friend of mine. He's like, hey, how do I start getting advertisers? Mm-hmm. I was like, and I just kind of, he goes, because I'm doing this big build and I want to try and garnish some advertisers, to help finance it. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I was like, I didn't really start earning advertising money until I was in at about 100,000 subscribers. Yeah. So that's really when you really start to get the attention of people.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. It's like going to the dance. And if you're the guy that's like going up to all the girls, you're the creep. Right. If you're the guy that's writing all the advertisers, you're the creep. Mm-hmm. But if you're the guy that hangs back and just like waits to be approached and be like, oh, he's so cute and shy, let me go talk to him. It's the same thing with advertisers. Mm-hmm. If you hang back and let the advertiser come and go, hey, we think we would be a good fit. What do you think? You're like, oh, that's wonderful. I use your product all the time. And the way they get noticed is because you use their product in the video. Right, hey, we notice you use the wall tools a lot. Would you be interested in doing stuff for us? And, you try and manipulate your social media so these people can come across you. But when I wrote back to my friend, I'm like, what's your subscriber count? He goes, 100. I go,
might as well be 0.
Don't even, you can't even consider it till you're in your 90s or 120,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, because I didn't realize that. He thought you just hit the ground and you get subscribers because you have a channel. It's all about
connection with that.
You got to be the popular kid at the dance. You really have to be. You got to be the cool kid that has a lot of friends. Mm-hmm. Or the cool girl that has a lot of friends. That's just it. And that is unfortunately the way it is. And you got to earn those friends one at a time. There was a moment.
The base word in influencer is influence. If you don't have any influence,
then I was. I had 10 subscribers at one time.
Yeah, everybody has to go through that process, and that's the way it starts.
Mm-hmm. And that's the good thing about this is also such a great democratic process in that everybody has to do the same exact thing. Like when you see Casey Neistat at 10 million or Colin Furze at 10 million plus subscribers, they earned every one of those subscribers based on their content creation and their self-confidence and their art ability. That's it. And anybody can do that.
Yeah.
There isn't one person that can't do that. There are people that can't do it because they overthink it. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying it is such a level playing field. When people say to me all the time, oh, I wish I got free tools. The guys that earn the most money are the ones that get all the free tools. I'm like, it's really simple to get free tools. All you got to do is start a YouTube channel, earn 100, million subsibers, make 5 videos a month for 9 years, and then you get free tools. It's really easy. It's something. I mean, I'm being sarcastic, but it really is something anybody could do.
Right. It's anything anybody could really do, and it just has to be something of value to the audience, and that's really what it boils down to.
There is how to make everything.
Yeah.
You know this channel, How to Make Everything?
No. I know this.
It's the guy that smashes eggs on ramen noodles and then scrambles it up with Barbie body parts.
Oh, jeez.
You got to check it out. He gets millions of views, and it is just like watching a car wreck that happens in a sink.
Yeah.
How to Make Everything. And he just does all this crazy, wacky stuff, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's totally not to be taken serious. It's like performance art. But there's a guy that's got millions of subscribers and millions of views.
Yeah, he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How to Make Everything.
But I think that all the key takeaways are there, though. You have to be confident. You have to put yourself out there for ridicule, harassment, and all those type of things. And there's a price of admission. That's what I've been learning as my life progresses, and even just in the business world. I have big prices of admission that I did not realize until I got to a certain point where I was getting sued all the time by tenants. I was getting this, I was getting that, and it was not pleasurable. And I was like, why did I work 10 years to get to here?
Well,
This
you know what it
a shit
is?
life.
It's I call it all the time. It's what is your threshold of pain? You got to
absolutely.
increase your threshold of pain. If you're willing to deal with
Yeah.
one person going, I don't like that you made this ice pick. This is horrible.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. And you go, oh, you get that gut wrenching feeling, and you're like, how can I
Really
solve this
stop.
problem? You go, hey, you know what? I'll just mail you a new one. You're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, you're the best guy in the world. As opposed to mail it back, I'll fix it. What exactly happened? How did it break?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about I just mail you a new one? And the other day I mailed out a book, and the book was $500. It had a little tear in it, which drove me crazy. But I knew the client probably would be like, it's handmade by you. I love it. But it drove me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So for $500, I threw an ice pick in it for another $80 ice pick in it. So when they get it with a little bit of value. The ice pick obviously isn't $80 for me. So it's try and like overcompensate, in little ways, which is a big over deliver and
Over promise, under deliver, or under promise and over deliver.
We all
get
know
there
what it
early
is.
and leave late.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's a lot of these things. Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of these things, like the common thread tends to be just like you said, having the confidence to just put yourself out there in one way or another. So whether you're talking about designing a product, or whether you're talking about working with other people, or you're talking about getting a new job, I like to say a lot of times, like, everything is the same thing. We just look at it differently. It's about, oh, I want to do X. Well, let me do a little bit of research, but I don't want to overthink it. If I want to go to this place, well, what does this place do? Like for me, it was working in TV and film. Got out of the Marine Corps. I'm like, okay, I want to work in TV and film. How do I do that? Well, let's start with a degree. Everybody has you get a TV and film degree. So I got a TV and film degree. I'm like, okay, well, what's the next step? Well, if you want to work in TV and film, you got to be living in the place where they film movies and TV. Like, oh, wow. Okay, well, I guess I've got to go to the West Coast, and my girlfriend lives in San Francisco, so that's where I'm going to go. Went out to San Francisco. Then it was like, oh, wait, there's not a lot of film and TV happening in San Francisco, but what can I find? And then I ended up working at the, one of the main TV shows that got filmed there, which was Mythbusters.
I didn't think you were going to say.
Sorry, I try not to. I had to.
He's big
Flex.
time. Yeah, big time.
So,
you
it
should
was
say Mythbusters on your shirt right now.
but it's that thing of like,
we'll add it in.
It's like, and then it becomes a thing of like, oh, okay, well, how do I get a job on Mythbusters? Well, I need to get contacts. So I started volunteering on the show, made contacts while I was there as a volunteer. Then it was like, oh, okay, then you move your way up. But then it was, okay, I'm done with Mythbusters. Do I want to take the next step and continue to work in TV and film? Okay, well, where are all the jobs in TV and film? LA. Do I want to live in LA?
Nobody wants to live in LA.
No. And a lot of times people get down on themselves because they don't realize that the choice they're making is a value judgment. Like stand-up comedy, right? I know it's a tangent, but so say you want to be a stand-up comic. Okay. One of the key things, are you willing to work every night from 7 at night till 3 in the morning
in a different town every night?
In a different town every night, regardless of whether you have the talent to be a stand-up comic. Mm-hmm. It's the literal practicality of doing the job. Can you do that job in those time frames and in that travel? A lot of people don't think that, and they just want to beat themselves up like, oh, well, I wanted to be a stand-up comic, but yada, yada, yada. Well, practically, did you ever want to stay up till 3 in the morning in a bar with a bunch of people you don't know? Mm-hmm. No, yes, no. Well, okay. Well, then you just weren't cut out to be a stand-up comic. Be something else.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have a random soapbox where a lot of times where creative stuff is about, they always say it's like, 10% talent, 90% hard work, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's everything.
Just showing up is like, a lot of like people will always say, oh, he's just making videos just to save spaces in his video thing. I'm like, well, yeah, sometimes you do that just to keep pace with what I'm doing personally, also to keep the audience expectations there.
Yeah. You have obligations after audience is there.
Another thing too is like once you get into the system of showing up every day for whatever it is, it's like I said, it's beneficial for you, it's therapeutic for you. Like I have this weekend to make a video and I have Saturday. So Saturday, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do Saturday, but I have a couple of ideas. But the point I was going to make is, if you put yourself in that pressure situation to be a stand-up comedian, or to be a YouTuber, or to make stuff, if you force yourself to do stuff, even if you don't have something ready to go, that's when you come up with some of the best ideas. Like I remember, for instance, sitting there is a treasure chest that I made on Make Magazine channel. I thought of that 3 minutes before I started making it. I literally, because I was in an obligation schedule with them that I had to deliver a video every 2 weeks. I had to deliver a video the next day. I didn't know what to do. And I said, when I was with David Welder, I was like, oh, maybe I should make a treasure chest. Maybe that's something I've always wanted. I'll make a small. I wanted to make a big one. No time. Let me make a small one. So I made a small one, and it was one of my most viewed videos on the channel.
My son's obsessed. We dig 4 hours a day every Saturday, if not more.
And that reminds me, I'm going to write treasure chest down because I've been wanting to make a big one. Now that I have big boy toys, I can make one.
And that's the other thing too, is understanding like what's my final mission? What's the actual end goal? You know, and what am I doing? So for like Jimmy, we could talk about that example, right? His goal wasn't to make a treasure chest. The treasure chest is just what happened.
Right.
The video was the thing.
The real goal.
Right. And if he had gotten wrapped up in what am I going to make, he probably wouldn't have ever made it, when what he was focused on was making the video. So I need to create content. So how do I get it? You know, a lot of times people use that cliched phrase, you put the cart in front of the horse, right? They lose track of where they're going, and they get stuck in the weeds. And that's where a lot of people throw in overthinking as a phrase. And overthinking applies along a whole spectrum of things. But when you talk about design process, when you talk about product development, it is about, you have to free up your mind, but at the same time, you have to know what they call it in script writing and screenwriting. Like you gotta kill your children, right? Which is that you got to know when the idea is dead, you know, and not be emotionally attached to it and letting it go. You know, for me, a lot of times, I do tend to get locked in and fixated on an idea. But one thing you learn when you're a troubleshooter, when you're a mechanic, right? But to take it that simply, right? As a mechanic, you know, what's wrong with my car? My car won't start. Oh, it must be the moon phase. And you get locked in on, oh, what phase is the moon, right? And so you forget that, oh, maybe I should check to see whether I have gas.
Yeah.
You know? And then, you know, if you get locked in on gas, you're like, oh, it must be gas. And then you put gas in, and then it doesn't run. And it's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do now.
Well, spark and all that,
you know,
right down the chain, right?
Exactly. You got to get, you got to be able to break your focus in order to solve the true problem, whatever that is. You know, it's our.
Well, I think the a couple of key points to take away if you want to live the life of a designer, maker, influencer, whatever, you just got to work hard at making stuff that's good.
Yep.
It's so simple. You just got to make hard at working stuff that's good. You got to be committed. I think another really important thing, and this is like also therapeutic, but also good advice, just finish everything you start. Even if you fucking don't like it, just finish it. It's the idea of, like, people often say, I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting my money. If you can like eliminate the idea that you are wasting, just see it through, because by the time you get to the end of something you're not happy with, you'll find out something about yourself or about the process. You'll discover something. So if you look at everything as a lesson rather than a hindrance or a pain in the ass or an inconvenience, you'll begin to just be that problem solver that could solve anything. Like if you're in the middle of a project that you initiated and you hate, just pretend you're getting paid by a stranger for it, because then you're going to have to fucking finish it no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to finish everything you start, regardless of your emotional attachment to it or not.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of times it comes down to, what do you want to do and how do you want to do it? Show up, do the work. You can read almost any book on how to be a writer, and the common thread through all those how to be a writer books is show up, do the work, write. Whether it's good, bad, put in your date, you got to put in your words. Yeah. And it's the same thing with making, it's the same thing with anything, but especially with this job.
Stage time too, like a stand comedian.
Absolutely.
Stage time.
It's about showing up. I mean, for me, that's been 99% of my life of being successful is showing up and not quitting.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Show up.
I have been instructed to talk a little bit more about, I think my view is a little limited when it comes to design because I'm a little bit too obsessed with efficiency and maybe trying to always recapture every type of level of energy that there is, whether it's the product that was manufactured that I'm reusing or salvaging or whatever it may be. And I think that one thing I need to do is really tying in a little bit to what Aaron said earlier on is you have to set like a linear progression and standard what it is, and a lot of times for me I end up triple over budget on some type of thing that I'm creating that's not realistic, it's not going to help anybody, and I need to do a much smaller, broken down logistically step by step process in a linear fashion so that I can have smaller pivot points, and then once I get to the bigger dreams I achieve a much larger scale of my actual realized dream. So I know if I'm even heading in the right direction, because I think I've been off course on a lot of my designs and I've kept going through them to the bitter end, and I did finish them, but it's been quite painful for me. And I need to work on expanding my pain, as you said as well.
Well, you expand your threshold of pain, but then, if you do things and you look back and you're like, boy, that really sucked.
Yeah.
It's like having, a lot of partners in life. You start to realize what you don't want in a person. It helps you focus what you do want in a person. That's going to be a partner in life. And same thing with work. You start to realize what you're really not attracted to doing, or the products or the processes or the people you don't want to work with. Right. Just helps you get to the point where like you don't even realize there's a problem, and you're like, oh wow, this is all the things I really wanted to work with. There's no problems anymore. Yeah. It's not like you've discovered this like Shangri-La.
No.
Just life starts to become a little bit easier if you start moving away from the negative.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about like, and then it's also like always keep learning, right? Because sometimes the solution to your problem might not be in the realm of what you're doing, but might be in somebody else's realm. Right. And it also open your gaze, right? So you look wider and look for what's commonality, right? Like, so the thing I was thinking about when you were saying linear progression, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's people that have solved the problem of how to come up with a certain design of a thing, and that's the prototyping process, right? And software people are really good at that. And if you look at the way software people do things, we talk about minimal viable product and things like that, you can take those lessons and apply them to somewhere else. Or like I was in the Marine Corps for a while. There's a thing there. It's called the 5-paragraph order: situation, mission, execution, right? Administration, logistics, command, and control. And what that is.
Hold on, let me write that down.
No, it's okay. It's how you go from we need to do a thing. How do we get there? Okay, well, each of those phrases has things behind it. What's the situation? What's the mission? But you can take that and apply it to a larger thing, right? Like if it's not, taking down a bad guy, and it's how do I make this product? Well, what's my situation? Well, I need to make this product. What am I going to do? I need to do, Mm-hmm. So sometimes you have to find also a thing that resonates with the way you think, right? So not everybody thinks linearly, but everybody still needs to have a process, their process of how to get from A to B.
They want to accomplish.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell people, one of my jokes used to be, there has to be a plan. Even if the plan is there is no plan, there still has to be a plan. Otherwise, you're never going to go anywhere.
A set out intention at the start of every journey.
There you go.
I gotta say thank you so much. I've been on cloud 9, even just spending time with you guys and getting to interact at any level and form. I have to say, it's made my life and experiences even more enriched and valuable. And
I appreciate it.
I think that I'll see what else I can figure out to collaborate with in the future, if I can come up with some kind of creative ideas and
absolutely
see what we can do. Because it's a small, I think it's a small amount of people that really do, that are in the designer / maker / putting themselves out there. It's a very small niche, and I know I need to connect more during these times, just like everybody else. And I'm very happy to have this opportunity.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Guys. Yeah.
Thank you. You made when you came to the cardboard, the postcard thing. When you came to the postcard thing, you brought a level of excitement to it that was a little dull. You brought a little bit of excitement to the party.
There you go.
When you showed up and you were so like, I've been dying to see this. It was great. I was happy about that. So thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
man.
And
we'll talk to you guys soon, and we'll call it a day for today.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.